Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Stephanie Phillips with Veterans in Politics. Today we have Kristal Bradford, candidate for Justice of the Peace, Department number 2. But before we get to Ms. Bradford, Ms. Phillips.
I got all kinds of rants, but the one that made the news the most this week was that incredibly disgusting statue of a naked Trump. I don't think it was funny. I think it was vile. I think it was political hate and violence, and he was there hanging on a crane. Can you imagine if that were Kamala Harris up there? What the DOJ, what the FBI would do? Those people, whoever did it, would be in jail by now.
Does he have a lawsuit for that?
I don't know, but he should. And those people, I hope that they are prosecuted. I think it's disgusting. And it's so horrific. And it's pornographic. All the kids driving by seeing that. Anyway.
Boy, you're lit up today. Huh?
I know. I could go on. But anyway, what'd you think of it? Wasn't it sick?
I thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't read up on it, so I have no idea who posted it. I don't know or who put him up. I don't know how long he was up. And I don't even know where he was. I just know it was outside in Nevada in the desert. But the day and age, nothing surprises me right now. The politics, just everything is just unheard of and unseen and insane.
It was right on 15. So everybody driving north on 15 out of town saw it. Kids saw it. Some artist, whoever you are, artist, it was terrible. Put this up on private property. And now they're taking it to all the swing states and they're going to erect it across the country. So.
Well, don't you have a birthday coming up?
I do, tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
27.
27. Thank you. Somebody got it right.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Ms. Bradford.
Yes.
How you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing good.
Could you tell us about yourself?
Yes. So I am currently a Chief Deputy Public Defender. I've been at the Public Defender's Office for 6 years. We moved to Las Vegas in 2018. So I am originally from Cerritos, California.
What part of California?
Cerritos. So it's like on the border of LA and Orange County.
Okay. You don't know what direction you want to go, right?
For
you
what?
Want to go with the ritzy people in Orange County?
Oh, no. So, okay. So
I just got back from LA. I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible.
So the crazy thing is, a lot of people, especially in my line of work, being a public defender, I'm representing people from all walks of life. And a lot of people do have that story of I was very poor or, very had a hard bringing. I do not have that story. I grew up in a very affluent area. My dad was an entrepreneur. He did very, very well. That's why we grew up in Cerritos. I could not afford to stay in Cerritos. It's just too expensive. So I did have a very privileged childhood. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, when we would go to the Dodger games, we would be in the clubhouses, right? I've flown on a private jet before. So I did have a different upbringing.
Right.
Yes, I did. I was the only African American in most of my classes growing up.
They're very jealous of you.
So as a kid, you don't realize you have a big house, right? Because it's the same house I grew up in, born. You don't realize it until some of your friends start coming over and they're like, "You live here?" Wow. So I had a little bit of a different upbringing, but I had 8 siblings.
Did you go to Yale, Harvard?
I went to UCLA. Okay. So I am a Bruin. I stayed at home, which I kind of regretted. But I think my turning point where I had a very humbling experience was at UCLA when I had my daughter. Because I am a college student, right? I am broke. I am not working. I had to get on the county. So I have that experience. I got pregnant. I was not married. I was not with her father. I would go to class. I even took the city bus. First time I ever took it, I was pregnant. And I still went to class. I still graduated. I actually would have graduated early, but I ended up taking a year off to have her. But because I was so far ahead, I would have graduated in 3 years. So I ended up graduating in 4. So I think God humbled me.
That reminds me of a quote I saw from 50 Cent. He has a son named Marcus, 27 years old. And he says that he asked him for child support at 27 years old. And he goes, he said he's paying his son $10,800 a month just to, and he still wants more. And then he had this business transaction that he wanted to do for him so he could make $2 million a month. And the kid don't want to work. And he goes, I respect work. Just because I'm 50 Cent and I have a lot of money, that doesn't mean I need to give it to you. Go work for your money, like I worked for my money.
Yes, so that's kind of how my parents were.
Yeah. That's how I am. With
yes, so
except for my youngest one, I kind of
the babies. So I did, so I never stopped grinding. I knew I had to be an attorney. I knew I had to make money for her because I knew how hard it was being a single mom and struggling. And I was like, I can't do that for her. I didn't have that upbringing, and I was not going to let my child have that upbringing where we couldn't, afford rent, and we're in expensive California. So I never stopped school. Thank God for my parents. They were like her father. So they watched her when I was studying for the bar. They, she was with me every day. Like it was times she would be in class with me. My professors knew her. She had her laptop. She would watch movies in class. But when I had to study, my parents really stepped in. They helped me.
Did you bring children to
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
In law school. It was times I didn't know I was going to bring her. Her father was supposed to come and get her, but he didn't. So I would just...
Did you read my book, Family?
I did not.
Family Court System?
I did not, but I need to because I'm dealing with that right now. My daughter is 16 and unfortunately, I am dealing with that right now. Yes.
Talk to me. I'll give you
with child. Well, so one thing I did not know, although we have been here in Nevada since my daughter's been 8 for a long time. So 8 years we've been here. California retains jurisdiction because she was born there and her father still lives in California. So I just experienced that where I try to e-file for child support because he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Right. And they rejected it and say you have to file in person.
Wow.
So I'm actually flying to California tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
So
when I was going through my two was in California, and I was here, and it was very, very difficult sometimes.
It is.
It was a struggle. But why did you want to be an attorney?
So I was good at school, I'll be honest. Mm-hmm. So it was like in my mind and
not a doctor?
I was just going to say it was either a doctor or a lawyer, and I can't do math.
Oh.
So that's what the joke is for lawyers is we're just doctors who can't do math.
Okay.
And I can't do math. So I decided to do law. And I like it. So when I first started, I did civil litigation. I had my own firm. It was in California. I didn't like it. I hated civil. I hated arguing over $1,000. You're dealing with insurance adjusters. A lot of times you're not dealing with other attorneys. And so I just figure, well, this is just my career and I just don't like it that much, but that's okay. I mean, a lot of people don't like their jobs. And then when I came here and I got to do criminal law, then I was like, I love it. Like,
why public defender? Why not prosecutor?
So I actually started in the prosecution office.
You did?
I did in LA.
All right.
It's very diverse in LA.
Okay. Were you around when the Rodney King thing happened or no?
No.
Okay.
I was like 3.
She's too young.
Oh, she's baby.
She's a baby. She's not old like us.
So
hey, speak for yourself.
Yeah. No, you're older than I am.
I thought you were 27.
Yeah, no.
So I did start off there, but I was in the hardcore gang unit. So I only did murders and armed robberies, everything. But a lot of like Mexican mafia, a lot of gang on gang crimes, but it was diverse. When I got to Vegas, it wasn't as diverse and it shocked me. And when I say the bench wasn't diverse, the DA's office out here is not diverse like LA. And then I didn't like being on the DA side. I do feel like you change the system more as a district attorney. I feel like when you get a good district attorney who knows how to evaluate cases and really wants to change the system, that's the way you can change it. Because on the defense side, we really only have 2 options: take a deal or go to trial. I can't force a good deal. right? If I feel like the deal is not good, our only option is go to trial.
Right.
The district attorney is the one who makes the deal. So if you really want change, the district attorney side is a good side for change. But if you really want to affect people and help people, I feel like it's the public defender side. Okay. That human connection, that like sometimes we're counselor. I had a client for like a year call me mom. He just was like, I feel like you have my back like my mom. And he called me mom for a year. You're not going to get that on the district attorney side.
Isn't the public defender overworked with so many cases that they're trying to make deals because they got so many cases on there?
So we're both overworked. I'll say the DAs and the public defenders. And I just think just the system. But no, at the end of the day, like I tell my clients, I have to be at work and I have to work. So I tell this little speech to every client, my job is not to convince you to take a deal. That is not my job. If you tell me you don't want to take a deal, we'll go to trial. I said, however, my job is to tell you the risks and the exposure that you have if you decide not to take that deal. And I have clients who are like, I'm innocent or, I want to fight it. And I said, that's fine. But as long as you know, if it goes left, this is how much time you're facing, and you can sleep at night knowing it went left, but you had your day in court, then you don't take a deal. I said, but if you feel like I do not want to risk 20 years of my life, because people take deals for all kind of reasons. And
don't you think they make too many deals? And if you're sitting there as a defense attorney, I've often thought about this and trying to be in your mind. When you have a client, they're guilty, right? Just say you have a client and that they either whatever the crime is, they're guilty, but your job is to defend them.
Yes.
And these people come and make a deal, and let's say that they trafficked a child or raped a child, something just so egregious and horrific. And these prosecutors come and make a deal. How does that make you feel? And I realize you can't comment on certain cases or whatever, but how does that make you feel because you're a mom?
So it's multi. I'm definitely a mom, and I'm a human being, right?
Yeah.
So the deals, the way the system is, if the deals were not made, then it would be a lot of cases. Like the system is so overwhelmed that if we went to trial on every case, it just would be impossible. It would literally be impossible. So that's why we have the deals in place. However, I'll be honest, a lot of my clients are guilty. A lot of my clients might tell me they're guilty, or I might look at the evidence and see it, and I might talk to them about it. But if the crime does not match the punishment, then I might advise them, no, you don't want to take this deal. Like, yes, you did do A, B, and C. For instance, I had someone stealing some makeup at the store. She never had a felony before. And as she left, she's like, I'll shoot you. But she's like, on drugs, and she just walks out. I'm not pleading her to the maximum penalties on a felony when she stole a lipstick. Let's figure out what else is going to help her stop stealing lipstick, right? Let's figure out if the deal of drug court is going to help her. Let's figure out if I'm locking her up is going to set her back in her journey. Because sometimes when I get cases, they're not the same person that they might have been 6 months ago or a year ago or a couple years ago. So you kind of have to factor all of that. When it comes to guilty clients, I think it's less pressure than innocent feeling client. That's when I believe it's tough. When I have a client that I truly believe is innocent, then it is extremely tough because I don't want to mess up their case. I don't want to have penalties that I can't sleep at night. Like, if I had just did this, then this would have happened. Or if I had went harder. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a guy who kept stealing cars. So he had my case, he had 2 more cases, and we're getting ready for trial. And I'm like, we didn't have much of a defense, but it's okay because I'm not going to ever die down, but kept stealing cars. I talked to him like maybe 3 days before calendar call, he's in jail. And I'm like, look, I need to remand you, mean put you back in jail on my case. You're not earning any credit, because he was remanded on the other case. He's like, no, I'm a bail out. We talked a lot. I said, are you going to be stealing cars anymore? He's like, no, I'm done with that life. I'm done. He got out the day before our calendar call. So when we get to calendar call, I'm talking to this man like almost every day. I'm like, he's not here. Like, that's crazy. He knew we were going to trial. Like, he knew everything. He's not here. He ends up getting a bench warrant. 2 days later, my investigator calls me and says, Kristal. He was like, sit down. I'm like, yeah. He was like, you know your client? I was like, yeah. He was like, got out. He was still in a car. And the car he was still in, I guess, had guns in it. So the guy was like an armed instructor, and he had guns in the car. And he ran in to like grab his keys, and he ran out and seen my client still in the car, and he just panicked. He had a gun on him, and he shot him right here. That affected me for probably like a year, where I beat myself up and was like, if I had remanded him, he would have been in jail. That wouldn't happen.
Hold on. I need to know this, Ms. Bradford. The guy that shot your client, was there any charges on him for that?
I'm not 100% sure. I think there was, but I don't know if he fought it or if they ultimately dropped it. It affected me so mentally and emotionally, because I did, like, even my husband was like, you can't blame yourself. But I did. I did. And I was like, what more could I have done? So sometimes it's like, yeah, I know my client had a problem. I know he's guilty, but sometimes I feel like I'm not here to judge him. I'm here more to help. And sometimes help is time. Like, if he had been convicted, he would have probably done some time if we had went to trial. And maybe that would have woke him up, just being in for a minute. But it really affected me. And I did blame myself for like a year.
What would you say to people, because you're looking to be a judge and you are a public defender currently? What do you say to people that would think because you're a public defender, you might be soft on crime? What would you say to those folks?
I would say that I'm not necessarily soft on crime at all. Because again, I started at the district attorney's office in the hardcore gang unit, which is like the toughest unit. So I don't think that, but I think that what I would do is give each case its own attention and not do these blanket things. And when I say that, somebody may have multiple felonies. However, this case might not be the crime of the century type case. Do we throw the book at him because of that? In some cases, you might have to, right? Like, I had one client who like showed no remorse to where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm glad that the person he beat was not like my child or my husband, because it was just no remorse and no
those sociopaths, right?
Yes. And unfortunately, he needed to do time. But then there might also be someone who has no record. And although the crime looks horrific, when you break it down, it could have been self-defense, or it could have been a reason behind it. It kind of reminds me of that big Chicago case where the guy, it's like a 14-year-old gets a gun and shoots a guy who's like punches out his mother. If you just look at that as a blanket, you get a 14-year-old with a gun, probably shouldn't even have a gun, right? And shot and killed this man. Other guy didn't have a gun. But then when you break it down, well, he was hitting on his mother. The girlfriend he was with was edging him on. Hey, hit her. She calls him in a panic. And in his mind, he has to protect his mom. We're going to all protect our mom. So I just think that you have to, that's the problem, is you can't do this blanket. If this person has this many felonies, they're going to automatically get this much time. No, you have to look at each case individually and see what it warrants.
Do you think there are some cases that there should be no deals allowed?
So.
You had to raise up out of her
I had to raise up because
I have a few in mind, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my answer from a defense perspective.
And then I'm going to tell you from a mom.
Okay,
Yeah.
So from a defense perspective, when I get a good deal on a terrible case, I shouldn't even tell my secrets. It's online. I know the state has problems with that case. And I'm a litigator. Like, I fight a lot, right? And that's what will make me a good judge, because I know the laws, because I'm always constantly fighting them. So I know there's a chance. It might not be a high chance, but there's a chance I might be able to get that whole case knocked out. Whether that's a Fourth Amendment violation, a Fifth Amendment violation, they waited too long to press charges or something, but there are some issues in their case. Because if I get a deal that looks too good, and I'll give you an example.
Even knowing they're guilty.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not like too many innocent people, right? A lot of times, when I get my cases and I get the evidence and I get the proof, yeah, they're guilty. But I know that there were some things that were done wrong, like very wrong. And so if I get a good deal, I know that that's probably why, because I'm going to hedge. I might hedge. If I get a terrible deal or no deal, then I have nothing to lose. So I'm going to hedge my bet and file every single motion. And if there is any, flaws in that case, I might actually get that entire case dismissed. So as a prosecutor, you're looking like, well, maybe this officer didn't do something right, or maybe, just for whatever reason, it took us longer to file. And the law says the judge is supposed to dismiss. Do I give them a deal where I get something, where he does some time, there's some punishment, or do I risk it, go to trial? The worst is if it goes to trial, conviction, and then it goes on appeal, and then it gets overturned. And do I risk an entire case getting thrown out? So it's not as simple as no case should have a deal, because sometimes there's things that were done wrong in the process and the case really should be dismissed, but it didn't get dismissed.
What if it's murder? What if it's rape of a child? What if it's trafficking? What if it's your child?
Well, you still have to have the constitutional rights, right? Because you could always look at the opposite way. What if it's my child that's being accused? Or what if it's my child that had a mental breakdown and went and killed somebody, right? I'm not saying that behavior was good. I'm not. But at the end of the day, I want to be confident in a system where I know my wronged child, because as a parent, we never think our child wrong is so much so that we can't love them anymore, right? So you think like, well, what if my child's wrong? They couldn't. It didn't give them the protections to at least have an attorney on their side, or have an attorney at least defending their rights. I have a terrible case right now. I'm not going to give too many facts because somebody will find it, but I have a terrible case, horrific home invasion case. People were beat. It's just a horrific case. His client's mother calls me every day and it's like, he's being treated so wrong, and the prison, the jail, or he's, they're doing this to him, they're doing this to him. And as a parent, as a mother, as a human, sometimes I'm like, well, look what he did, right? But then also the reverse, I understand as a mother her concerns. I hear it in her voice because I am also a mother. So that's why this stuff is not easy.
You can't say, yes, there shouldn't be any deals on murder cases.
No, because I think there's always the opposite of nothing is ever black and white, even with law. So, if you look at the most horrific murder, you're going to be able to always paint another picture. And maybe that's, as an attorney, what we're always taught to think. I always have to look at the other side. I can't ever think a case is a slam dunk on either way, because there's always a deciding factor. And I don't count my wins by not guilties, right? I might count my win that somebody has a substantial life after they go to prison. Like in his case, I told him, I think I would do a great job if you have a life outside of prison, because you are absolutely going to do a lot of time. And that might be 20 years, that might be 30 years. But my goal is for when you are done with this phase of your life, you still have a life. And so even first degree murders, it's not life a lot of times. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's 20 years to life, which means that they might be able to parole after 20 years. So even if the prosecutor gave no deal in that case, that person still may get out in 20 years. What's the step next, right? They've done their time. So do we want them to get out and then go kill somebody else? No, we want the rehabilitation process to have worked.
In 2026, every single district court seat is up for grabs in the state of Nevada. Why did you choose to go with Justice of the Peace and not wait the 2 years? And why did you choose this particular seat, Department 2?
Okay. So I decided, well, I actually talked with a lot of judges, district court, justice court over the years. I've been here for 6 years. And I do feel like the ones in justice court like the job a little bit more than district court. I feel like talking with people in district court, they said even more so they're celebrities. And when they say that celebrities, local celebrities, they're watched for everything. You go to a PTA meeting, can't yell at the teacher, right? Because you're a judge. You can't do a lot of stuff. When it's media, it's you gave this person life or you gave this person probation and we felt like they should have gotten life, right? It's a lot more consequences. And I wanted to hit it in the beginning. Justice court is people's first introduction to court, right? And I'm a mom, right? So I want to stop the bleeding there. Like I want them to get me there and realize when they get to district court, a lot of times it's too late. But at justice court, there's still programs that might change this person.
Court as well.
Yes, there is Muni court, but I was not running against Wolfson. But yes, there is Muni court as well. Every race is a challenge. Like every race you pick the race where you think you're going to do the best at, right? Because nobody wants to do this twice and nobody wants to do this and spend your time, your money and your kids and lose, right? So I just felt like this race, I would be the best at it. I would do the best. And I feel like I still made the right decision with this race.
In this particular seat?
In this seat.
Okay. Do you know that I've known the incumbent since 1998?
No.
Yeah, I've known him a very long time.
But I figured.
And what made me think, because I had a lot of respect for him, and what made me lose respect for him is that his marshal left his service weapon out.
Okay.
And the marshal went away for the weekend. And the marshal's son took that service weapon to a party and killed somebody. Mm. And the judge defended the marshal. Okay? But that wasn't the worst part about it, that he defended the marshal. The worst part about it is one of my members put this story out. And when I walked into his courtroom for friends and family tickets, because I don't think they do that anymore, but
no, they changed.
Yeah, it was big back then. Mm-hmm. So when I walked into his courtroom for a member that had a ticket, he used his bench to scold me and tell me how he is so upset that I had put out this article against his marshal, which I didn't put it out, somebody else did, but I'm supposed to know everything about everybody, right? Mm. And he used, and I couldn't go after him because he was on the bench. He was wearing the robe. We had marshals. The place was filled with litigants and attorneys, and I really wanted to go after him, but I bit my tongue. Instead, I did it on the phone. But because of what he did, he could have, because of the relationship we had, he could have taken me back in chambers. He could have expressed it that way. He could have called me out in the hallway, or he could have said, let's meet. Let's go get a coffee. Let's go get lunch or whatever. He could have called me on the phone. He could have did all those things, but he chose to use his bench because he's a coward. He chose to use his bench to chastise me because we put out a legitimate thing about his marshal. His marshal did leave a service weapon laying around, and his marshal's son did use it and kill somebody at a party, and he defended that marshal. That's where it all went array for me. Just wanted to let you know.
He kept his job too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
as a judge,
yes,
you have a scenario, maybe something similar, or they do something that, is completely unethical, wrong. How should that be handled?
So this is a great example of keeping a fair and unbiased and impartial courtroom. If you are there for a traffic ticket, and that is what is before me, that's all we should be discussing is a traffic ticket, right? Because that is what you are in my courtroom for. No matter how I feel about you, that is what we're on for. So that's what we discuss on the record, and that's what we talk about. Now, if it's my personal life that you're attacking or whatever, and I know you, first of all, if I don't know you, I'm probably just going to ignore you, right? The celebrity, right? You just ignore you don't read the comments. But if I know you outside of my job is when and I understand as a judge, and that's why judges feel like they're celebrities, you can't really put outside of your job, like we're always wearing that hat. But when I come home, my babies are not saying, hi, judge, they're saying, hi, mom, right? And so outside of that bench, that's where I need to meet with you for some coffee. Let me at least give you my side of the story. First of all, the bench is not a place for that, because if you will bring personal stuff into the bench on you're going to do it for anyone. What if, and I'm going to say this because it's my race, but what if that morning I was robbed by a black man and attacked by a black man? So now I already have this taint going into court that day. So now every black man I see, I'm going to treat badly. No, that's not the place for that. Because people need to trust the judicial system. That's how sensitive the judicial system is. When these people are getting in front of you, this is their lives. This is not politics, right? This is not games. This is people's lives. I get mad at DAs when they give me a deal and they don't give my client enough time to actually think about it. Like, they give it to me late and they're like, he can take it or no. Because that client should be able to call somebody and say, hey, should I do this? This might affect, and not just their life. You're talking about their parents' life, their kids' lives, future generations that it affects. Think about if you had attacked him on that bench, right? Or said something personal, or that can have consequences that snowball. So that is why you need to be fair and impartial on the bench. There's no room for breaking little laws, telling little white lies, because when you break little laws, then you get comfortable. And now you start breaking big laws. When you can be disrespectful on the bench just a little bit or yell a little bit, now you're comfortable. Now you're big-headed. Now you can really go after somebody. There's no room for that.
A lot of abuse of power.
Yes.
In the judicial system.
Yes. Yeah. And there's no room for that.
And he was trying to trigger me too.
And so when people come to court, it is literally the worst day of their lives. They are not winning $1 million. They are not happy. It is the worst day of their life. And if they are guilty, they're embarrassed. Yeah. If they got media attention, they families calling them like, oh my goodness, people are staring at them. They don't know on the street if, oh my goodness, do they know I'm a criminal? Do they know about this case? This is all going through their mind, on top of the fact that I might do a lot of time, on top of the fact that I feel like nobody has my back. All of this, and then sometimes they're locked up. You think that that's the time to be extra rude to them because you're in a power position? Like, that's not the time that I have compassion, or at least hear people out or see them. And that's kind of why I was like, I want to be the voice for the voiceless and see people. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what you are. I need to see you because I've been in court and felt disrespected and unseen. And it's a horrible feeling. And I'm not even the person that's on the case. I couldn't even imagine the extra layer of, I don't know if I'm going home today. I don't know if I might do this time in jail. I don't know if I'm not going to see my family anymore or see my kids grow up. So, it's no room for biasness.
I wasn't even before him. I was there for one of my members.
Even worse.
That's what I was there for. It wasn't even for me. Well, there was a rumor going around, Ms. Bradford, and the rumor was that because there was 2 women in the race against him, although he never ran a race before. He was appointed, and then he never had a challenger. So this is the first time. And the rumor that went around is that that he put you in the race,
yes,
to take away the vote from the other woman that was in the race. What do you say about that?
And that's absolutely not true. And it's crazy because I've been in front of him for 5 years and I've never talked to him about putting my name in that race. I never talked to him about going against him. never in no cahoots. And I think, so I just took it as no one has nothing else on me. I'll be honest.
Okay, good.
Right? I took it like that.
Yeah.
I took it like that. I was like, oh, no
Well,
one.
at least you didn't put a Republican logo on your
I did
materials.
not.
You saw that
no
article.
logo, right? No logo. And so I kind of took like, well, no one has anything else on me. My name is like my birth name. Like I just took it like that. And I mean, I wouldn't be going so hard and just trying so hard to be on the bench, I think, if that was true. And I really am. Like, I really do believe that I am the best person for this position.
And Ms. Phillips brought up about the Republican logo that he had on his mailer, and he said it was an oversight.
Yes.
What's your comment about that? I think it's a desperation move, actually, for somebody to do that, because I don't think I could ever remember any judge that would use a partisan logo and put on their mailer, unless they were going to combine them with both. I mean, if it was me and I was running for re-election, I would just put a Republican logo. I put a Democrat logo. I put a Libertarian logo. I put a Green Party logo. I'll have them all over there listed, because
Yes.
I want everybody's votes, right?
Yes.
What do you say about him doing that, putting the Republican logo on the only logo, which is represented by the RNC, Republican National Committee, on his mailer?
So
And call it an oversight.
I don't think it's an oversight because just because I've been doing this now, when you go to a printing shop, first of all, it costs a lot of money, right? I mean, well, maybe not for bigger people, but for like little small person like me, it costs a lot of money. We don't have money to just waste. You are sending them what you want them to print, but before they print, they send it back to you for your approval.
Sure.
It is bright red on a blue background.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see that. And it's strategically mailed to only Republicans. So when you put all that together, it was a strategic move.
And two candidates did
So
that.
basically,
Yes.
it wasn't oversight. He's just a liar.
It was and he broke the law doing it because the law is just very clear. We have a judicial canon. And if someone tries to say, well, that's the judicial canon. No, that's from the Nevada Supreme Court. And it has other stuff in there. Like, you have to be fair. You have to be impartial. Things like that on how a judge should behave even on the bench. And that's why I said, if you can't follow simple laws while we're running in a race for a few months, how are we going to expect you to follow the law for 6 years?
The other candidate just said it didn't meet the threshold of,
So,
and then Sicento just completely said, owned his, it's a, oversight, and he didn't even mention
yes,
the code.
because, and that's another thing. It was doubled down. So I believe the PAC now is the party. So they had that on there on top of endorsed by the Republican Party, not club or anything like that. And then they had a logo. I didn't know how a logo could also be an oversight, right? And
the logo belongs to Republican National Committee.
yes.
No state or county owns that logo.
Yes. And I didn't see the other person's literature, Madeline Cole. I thought what she was trying to say is she didn't put endorsed by the Republican Party. I think she just had to pack now, but I don't know. But she just said she could do it.
I think it was the same
But I'm
logo.
not sure.
It was the same
the
logo. I
elephant
think both
logo,
of them
yeah.
have the same campaign manager. That's probably why it was like that.
Gotcha.
But there was something else. There was something else I wanted to bring up, but it escapes me. But I wasn't. I don't think I was actually. I don't think I heard you clearly as to why this particular seat.
So I feel like with this particular seat, I offer something so different than the incumbent.
What's that?
He has said multiple times he's retiring. My light is just starting. I am just starting. We are different ages, different generations, different genders, different nationalities. Everything about us is different. And again, I feel like I will do the best race against him.
And I remember what it was. I want to get back to this logo thing, because in the last election in 2022, there was a judicial candidate that was in a photo. It was several judicial candidates that were in photo with then Sheriff Joe Lombardo, who's running for governor, was in the photo. And they were just in the photo, just there. And because they were in the photo, the Hispanic in Politics pulled their endorsement, and the Culinary Union 226 pulled their endorsement, which was the endorsement of Susan Bauckham. Great and outstanding jurist, because she was standing in the photo. Now, this one, they have the logo on their mailer, and they're not pulling anything. They're not pulling. So the hypocrisy in politics is astounding. I cannot stand hypocrites, and that's exactly what that was. Well, how do you take that though?
So I take it like I said, they did a calculated risk, and when there's no, I don't want to use the word punishment, but when there's no consequences for it, then it's like, well, what is anyone going to do? No one pulled any endorsements. No one has spoken up like, hey, this is wrong. Judges should be impartial, because we really should. I should not feel like if I wear MAGA hat, I'm going to get treated differently. Or if I come in with, vote for a Kamala Harris shirt in front of your bench, I get treated differently.
Black Lives Matter pin.
Anything. Like, I should not feel like I'm going to get treated differently because of that, because all that's going to do is just make me, it just messes up the whole fairness and impartiality of the system and the non-bias. But I think it sends the message of there's certain people who feel like they can do whatever they want and there's no consequences. And I think that's dangerous for anyone, for any system.
Okay.
Speaking of Kamala Harris.
Yes.
I heard from a couple of people that you were at the rally Sunday. How was that?
I went to the rally Sunday. It was long and tiring. I try to go to both, but because again, I want all the votes, right? I want the Republican votes. I want the Democrat votes. I want everything. No, I wasn't. Well, yes, no, I have my shirt, but I wasn't like standing in line. There was a lot of judicial candidates that were standing in line, passing out their stuff. And I have my shirt on, and yep, I did go.
Have you gone to a Trump rally too?
No. I went to some of the Republican events, but not a Trump rally. And to be honest, I probably will not go to any rallies anymore. I just feel like it's long, it's tiring, and
they're a great place to hand out your materials. And I remember doing that at the Trump rally. And
it's a lot of just standing, and so yeah.
So you have Justice of the Peace could incarcerate somebody in the CCDC for 6 months.
Yes.
Have you had the opportunity to visit CCDC?
Yes.
And what do you think of that facility?
So I will say, I did a tour of CCDC. So I went on all the floors and seen that.
Is there a tunnel from the courthouse to the?
There is, but I actually never went in the tunnel. I've heard there's a tunnel, but no, they didn't take us in the tunnel. I just went on all the floors. But I will say, in the attorney place where we meet with our clients, it's just a room kind of like this, and we just meet with our clients. And I was shocked by that, because in California, when you go in your in-person visits, there's a cage in every room. So what happens is it's like a little metal cage, and they bring your client in, and there's a hole where you can pass papers and you can talk to them and things like that. So you feel safe. When we go to CCDC, here there is nothing. We are sitting just like we are sitting. It is no handcuffs. It is no officers in there. It takes a little delay for the officers to come.
Did they take your cell phone away?
They do take your cell phone away.
Because there was a case a few years ago. The attorney gave her cell phone to the accused, or the inmate, if you want to use that as terminology.
Yes. So I mean, I follow the rules. So I have no phone. And I remember being pregnant, like, oh, I hope I don't have my child here, because it's going to take a while for them to come. But to me, and this is, I guess, another topic for another day, but it just does create, I think, a little safety concerns for a lot of attorneys.
It takes a while? How long is a while?
I would say long enough where if something goes wrong, it's going to go wrong. So
Are there
like
cameras in there?
Yes, but like if a client wanted to attack you or be inappropriate with you or anything like that, that can happen in seconds. You know, somebody like I can grab you right now in a second and do something to you. So I was shocked when I went and visited CCDC and there was like no protections in place. So like I said, in California, the cage, like they can technically spit on you because it is like open. But other than that, like they're not going to get out. They can't attack you. We still have a good conversation. We still can pass documents. They can sign. So
earlier you mentioned about the amendments. Are you a constitutionalist? I mean, do you believe in the Constitution?
Oh, define that. Yes, absolutely.
And what would be your favorite amendment of the Constitution?
So my favorite amendment, of course, is the Fourth Amendment.
What?
And let me tell you why. It coming from a legal perspective.
And say what the Fourth Amendment is.
Okay, so the Fourth Amendment is protections against unreasonable searches and seizures, right? So
that was one of my favorite too when I went after Metro.
It's
It's a long story.
It's on YouTube.
It's the best amendment to provide people protections, and that's on both sides of the law. And I'll give you an example. Well, I mean, your people, you know, being pulled over for no reason or being searched for no reason and stuff. Of course, that's a violation. However, when everything is done correctly, too. Where I had cases where officers did good jobs and did everything correctly, it makes it harder for, first of all, deals to be offered, right? Because DA is like, no, my officers did everything right, got everything legitimate. And so it makes, to me, a better system. Because that way I feel more confident that the person that is behind bars is the person that did it because it was such great police work. Nobody rights were violated. Whatever they seized was done legally, right? So that's why I think the Fourth Amendment protects both sides. When you do it correctly, it protects our whole justice system. And then when you do it incorrectly, you know, I think that, you know, you see the flaws. But that's kind of why that's my favorite.
Do you believe your opponent have black robe syndrome?
I don't know what that is. So
when they feel that they're just mighty because they're a judge and they could do whatever, say whatever, their shit don't stink, so to speak.
I don't know particular if he does, but I think he does. I will say he's very comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. He was appointed. He was not elected. Mm-hmm. He never had an opponent until me. And so, or until this race. So that's years. Some people, you know, they have to do this every 6 years. So I think that comfort kind of gives you a level of security.
Of entitlement.
Or entitlement, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
See, we think alike.
Yeah.
Don't we think alike sometimes?
Yes, very much.
Entitlement.
So yeah, I think, but, you know, I don't know if it's making him, you know.
So what do you plan to do differently if you're successful or when you're successful to be in the bench?
So again, giving every case the attention that it needs, not being biased, looking at everyone, treating them with dignity and respect, and most importantly, following the law. You know, that was another big reason on just why I ran. I'm tired of judges not following the law.
Tell me about it. Family court, they don't know what that is.
Yeah, and so I had a case this year in front of the Nevada Supreme Court where they ruled in my favor and overturned the district court's orders.
Congrats.
Thank you, not following the law. And it's frustrating to, you know, like I say, on both sides. Because, you know, when it got overturned, DA has to, you know, deal with the case again. We also do too. So if judges followed the law, at least we would have the parameter. At least I would know. When I get in front of a judge that doesn't follow the law, I don't have any parameter. I don't know what the judge is going to do.
How long you been practicing?
12 years.
12 years. You sound more like a district court candidate than a justice of the peace. And with me saying that, tell us, explain to the viewers and listeners what a justice of the peace does.
Okay. So a justice of the peace is going to handle misdemeanors all the way through up until trial. They will handle felonies up until preliminary hearing. They also have the jurisdiction to handle small claims, 15,000. So a civil case, 15,000 and under, and evictions. And the reason why I kind of said the jurisdiction is because right now I believe there's a hearing master that handles the evictions and not necessarily the justice of the peace, but they do have the jurisdiction to handle those things.
What would you look for when you have to remand the accused to district court?
So,
and
like a bind up? Or,
yes,
okay.
Bind them to district. And what and what would you look for if they didn't have anything to bind them to district? I mean, what would make you say, you know what? I'm going to dismiss this case. Okay. There is no evidence that I could bind them district court.
I was going to say that's what it'd be like if, in law we have elements. Right. And if all of the elements are not met, and it's slight or marginal.
And right? What are these elements?
So, I don't know if you throw out something. Let's see. I'm trying to think of something.
Let's say they were trying to get somebody for assault with a deadly weapon.
Say, okay, so let's start there.
Which is a felon.
Yes, right. A felon. So first of all, there's two elements that you would not believe get bound up when sometimes they're not met. One is that a crime was actually committed and that the person in the courtroom committed the crime. And the only reason I say that is because I recently had a case where the officer was on the stand and they said, "Is this the person you arrested?" And it had been 4 years.
Is it Mark Furman? No, I'm messing with
you. No. And he was like, "I don't know." And the state was like, "So you arrested, blah, blah, blah. Is this him?" And he was like, "I don't know. It's been," he was like, "It's been 4 years." I don't know. The state argued, "Well, judge, he's honest." That case got bound up. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like, there's the bare minimum, right? So you have to look at that. A crime was committed, and did the person in court, actually commit the crime? What is the evidence to show it? Is it DNA? Is it an eyewitness? Is it they were there? And it has to be slight or marginal. It doesn't have to be, they don't have to present the best case, not trial. Assault, did an assault take place? Was someone, one thing you have to on assault is feel threatened for your life. So if I was like, "I'm gonna punch you," and you knew I was playing, that's not an assault. And I've had a case like that. And so I think a lot of judges just bind it up because they're like, "I don't want to make that uncomfortable decision to dismiss a case." And then in the news, that person goes and commits this horrific crime. So I'll just let district court handle that. But the problem with that is because I've actually, against my opponent, won quite a few writs. And what a writ is once it gets bound up, if I feel like there was not enough evidence to bind it up, I appeal to district court and I say, "This is why it wasn't enough evidence." And if I win, my case gets dismissed. And I've actually won quite a few, to where in my office they have deemed me Queen of the Ritz.
Queen of the Ritz.
Queen of the Ritz.
Sounds like a hotel, 5-star resort.
So I think judges need to, again, make those uncomfortable decisions to dismiss a case, because when cases get dismissed, like, people think, "Oh, we're just letting these guilty people out. They're just going to commit crimes. It's going to be worse." But no, when you dismiss cases, especially if a person is guilty, it makes everyone tighten up. It makes everyone make sure that type of case or that person, it doesn't get dismissed again. That means we are not going to come with weak evidence. We are not going to come, with officers who can't remember if that's the person or not. No, we are going to come with evidence that we need to get this case moving forward. And it makes the entire system trustable and better when you make those uncomfortable decisions. Because if you just bind up everything, now I got certain cases on appeal. Now it's getting dismissed anyway, and it just boggles the system down. And then you have, again, terrible work that is being done over and over and over until you get a good judge. And now a whole bunch of cases are getting dismissed because everybody was used to doing this sloppy work. But if you stop it at the butt, then you're going to get tighter work. You're going to get tighter investigations, going to get better attorneys prepared in court. So I think you have to make those uncomfortable decisions.
So there are 16 justices of the peace in Las Vegas, and they rotate bench warrants. And,
Yes.
And,
Yes.
When they have, what you call it, it's your day and you're going to be on call.
Yes.
Were you willing to pass that to somebody else, or are you willing to do what you need to do?
Do what I need to do. I like that. And the reason
3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the
Yes.
morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. You're at a
Yes.
birthday party, 1:30 in the whatever on a Saturday in the afternoon.
And I like that because it stops form shopping. Because what was happening, from my understanding, was that certain judges was getting all the calls and certain judges wouldn't get any. Because they were like, oh, well, we know this judge is probably going to grant it. This judge might have too many questions for
They're
us.
shopping for judges.
So they're shopping for judges. So now when everyone has that 2 weeks or whatever, they have to go to that judge no matter what. And, a lot of warrants are quick. You can't wait until the next judge. If you really like the next judge, you can't wait a week or two to get a warrant. No, it has to be done immediately because evidence has to be preserved. It could be lost. So I actually really like that.
I love talking to judges and judicial candidates because I believe that a judge impacts your life immediately on a very personal level. Years ago, there was this one detective named Bryant Yent. He went to a judge and he frauded a search warrant to break into an apartment and to, I guess it's supposed to be arrest this individual named Trevon Cole when marijuana was illegal back in those days. Instead, he shot him and killed him, Trevon Cole. And this was like years ago. But because he frauded the search warrant, and I even asked the judge, what are you going to do about it? He lied to you about that search warrant. The description didn't even match Trevon Cole. If you were a judge, right, and you had an opportunity to sign off on a search warrant, and the detective lied to you to get the search warrant approved, what would you do? What would your responsibility do? Especially it caused the death of somebody. What would you do?
So, because I've dealt with a lot of search warrants and reading affidavits and doing that from a lawyer perspective. But I think, at the end of the day, you just tell the truth. Because what would happen is, at least from my understanding.
What would you do to that cop who lied to you?
What do you mean, what I do?
What would you do to him? Is there any consequences you could do?
So I wouldn't be able to do anything with him. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the state would have to be the one that charged him, right? Not the judge.
Something into the district
but I wouldn't be lying. I'll say I would not be lying. But as a judge, I think that there's a conflict. Because if I feel like you've wronged me, and if I'm a victim, then I feel like I can go and do whatever a victim does, fill out a police report or do whatever they do. But it's up to the state on whether they decide to charge that person. And if they do decide to charge that person, then again, now my role is no longer the judge. It's a conflict. I am a true victim. Now I got to be called to the stand. I got to take the stand, but I can't have any kind of power over that case anymore because that's a conflict.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get, would you file a complaint with the district attorney's office, or would you file an IA complaint with Metro? Would you do any of those things? Because this detective lied to you to get the search warrant approved by you, and you're the one that signed off on it based on the information this detective gave you. Would you give him a pass and not do anything about it? Or would you want to see justice served in such a way that you'll file a complaint with the DA's office, or you file an IA complaint with Metropolitan Police Department? What would you do?
So if someone is coming to you and is lying, right? That's a perjury.
Okay.
That is an actual crime. You absolutely, I think you have a duty to report a crime. And again, that crime was done on you. You're a victim. Again, I'm all about fairness and creating the appearance of non-bias. So if I just do nothing and I see an injustice being done, that's a problem. That's a problem on any side.
I'm glad you say that, because it comes up to my next question. And a lot of these questions I'm saying is based on knowledge and experience I've heard throughout the years, right? They rotate, Justice of the Peace rotate a chief judge, I think every 2 years or something like that. Let's say it's your turn to be chief judge. Now you are the chief judge of the Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, right? And let's say the DA and the sheriff come to you to pull somebody off criminal cases completely, pull another judge off of, which has happened, pull another judge off of criminal cases based on, I don't know, whatever they want to come up and say to you. What would you do?
Well,
because you have the authority to take somebody off of a
that
criminal
kind of a
case.
decision has to be taken heavily. That cannot be taken lightly, because what can happen is you are now putting, so first of all, judges are elected positions, right? That means the people spoke, and the people are the one who put this judge in power. And if they're handling criminal cases, they are handling the people, right? They are ruling over the people. If you allow one or two people to remove someone that the people have voted to hold that position, you're now putting that into the hands of one or two people. So I think that would have to be, that cannot be taken lightly at all. You're talking about removing someone from an elected position. I think that based on one or two people are even in office. And I think that could be problematic. And I think that's because I know that even with district court right now, there was things, where I believe the DA's office tried to remove a judge as well. And I believe that chief judge also was kind of hesitant.
Joe Bonaventure.
Yeah, hesitant because, again, if you don't want this judge and you don't like this judge handling criminal calendars because of whatever reason, well, when that next cycle of election comes up, then you vote for someone else. But I think you have to take that very, I don't think you can just start removing people.
Okay, very good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Oh.
Ms. Phillips, do you have anything else, Ms. Bradford?
Yeah, I have 3 questions. You talked about conflict before. So what's your threshold for recusing yourself? Because some judges, they walk that line or get, they're too familiar and they don't recuse when they should.
So I think if it creates the appearance of impropriety, you have to recuse yourself, even if it's not really impropriety there. So let's say I was a victim of someone that's now appearing in front of me 10 years later, right? And I'm like, I haven't thought about this person in 10 years. I will rule perfectly fair. If it creates the appearance that I may still be vindictive or have a sour taste in my mouth on this person, I have to remove myself.
What if it's your landlord? Or what if it's your neighbor? What if it's someone you went to high school with? What if it's someone you know well?
So if it's someone you know well and it's not like a kid or anybody where it's a strong relationship, I think you let the parties know. So that's first step, right? Hey, I just want to let you guys know I work with this person, or this is my neighbor. I can still be fair. Again, you have to be able to be fair. If I feel like I cannot be fair, then I need to recuse myself from it. I need to.
I want to talk about the disciplinary commission, where it seems like
they don't have no teeth.
They're made up of attorneys, judges. There's two laymen on there. Don't you think that that's policing? They're policing their own, and they're looking at some of these complaints against these judges through biased eyes. And if it were just your average, ordinary person that's sitting on there, more of us than them, don't you think that some of these judges that are maybe violating constitutional rights of a litigant or something, they would have actual discipline against them. What do you think about that?
So I'm not sure.
Policing your own thing.
So unfortunately, that is just kind of how the system is, where, if it's legal, they try to have people in the legal field that kind of looks over, they feel like, well, they understand more. I'm not sure their process. So I cannot speak on their process, and I'm not sure their penalties, because I just have not done enough research on the process or the penalties or who actually gets disciplined. But I will say, just even in our system, if you feel like the policing of their own has not been done well, there's still other avenues that you can proceed, right? If you've been harmed, you can file civil lawsuits, right? A lot of civil lawsuits have been filed because, especially even against the police, because they felt like, well, they had an internal affair and nothing was done and nobody was disciplined. So we're going to attack them the way we can in the American style, which is by their money. So we're going to file a civil lawsuit or civil rights lawsuit. So there's other avenues you can
in federal court.
And there's other avenues you can.
But that's very costly and it takes a lot of time. In family court, the Supreme Court ruled against Judge Gaudet in family court about when he terminated this gentleman's rights, this father's rights to his kid. And the Supreme Court didn't agree with his ruling, thought he misappropriated the law. But he took away a parent's rights. And that is so egregious. There should be, just because the Supreme Court ruled against him and the father got his kids back. Okay. But how many times is he going to do this? Has it been done before and it just got under the radar? Is he going to do it again? Where is that discipline going to come in and happen to where he can never do that again to a parent?
And unfortunately, sometimes it's not going to come from the judicial committee. If they did not feel like that wrong was egregious enough, they're not going to do something big. So that's where the public opinion comes in, right? The public voting him out, or again, the lawsuits, or, it's just, it's a lose-lose, but unfortunately, that's just the system that we have. And I mean, even with judges, we're all attorneys, and a lot of attorneys are voting on us. So we're voting for our own, and we're putting people in that maybe don't deserve the position. And if we make terrible decisions, a lot of times it's not going to have consequences that get us removed from the bench.
I believe that there should be an easier process to remove a judge from the bench when they have completely stepped over the line. And it's a very difficult process.
It is. And then I would say, but then you can look at it, because again, attorneys, we do both sides. You can play devil's advocate with it. If it was too easy, then if we as a community or whatever really don't like these people or this person, then we can, or if they get small complaints, or then we start removing judges all the time. So, it's kind of like a checks and balance, and I don't have a good answer for that.
Did you do all three of your questions?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Do you believe that there should be term limits on judges?
Yes.
Very
I
good.
do.
What system do you believe? Do you believe in the appointment, or do you believe in electoral? And you know what? And before you answer, I was always, and me and my original co-host Jim Jonas, we used to clash on this before, and I had Judge Williams and Attorney Paul Potter on, and we were talking about the Missouri plan, which you get appointed and then you go for retention by the people. But I was always the type of person to agree with the electoral process, put it in the people's hands. But then there are so many candidates out there that should not be, that became judges, that should not be on the bench. And they got there basically because of name identification, or because they had the most money, or because they had friendship within the community, and they got the endorsements and all that. But then I was saying, okay, maybe we should go to the appointment process, right? Because, it's an extensive background and they look at all these things and they look at your medical and they look at your criminal and look at all these things and they make a decision and then they send three names, not one name, three names to the governor for the governor to pick, right? But now I'm realizing that that's all a bunch of BS as well, because in the last cycle, they send one name to the governor and that pissed me off, which the law says you're supposed to send three names to the governor. And then when I started to do a little bit more research, people were getting rid of any other contestants to go and file for a particular district court seat, because they were trying to get that one person that one person appointed, and they didn't want any competition. And that really turned me off of the judicial selection process. So now I gave you two examples as to what process do you believe is the best process to get the best quality of candidates to sit behind the bench and become a judge?
All right. So I think there's flaws in both processes. And because if we go, and I don't think you can have both. I mean, I think you should have both, because if you go the voting route, so the being elected, right, then you are running the risk, whoever has the most signs or has a better name or the celebrity. Could you imagine if I was like in movies and a celebrity, I'd probably, the celebrity, they're going to win. But if you go the appointment,
however, sorry, he was a great president.
But if you go the appointment route, there's politics in that as well, right? There's certain, like, I'll give you a Republican governor is more likely to maybe appoint the district attorney's office. Maybe a Democratic governor is more likely to appoint the public defender's office. So there's flaws in both. I don't think there's one system that is going to absolutely get the perfect judicial candidate, because once we figure that one system out, guess what? It's going to start having corruption involved in it. It's just, it's just anything that we pick, it's pros and it's cons. And I think you can find major flaws in both. But I think that we're still trying to do the best that we can to have the most qualified person. But it's, all of this is political.
Are you done with the question, Ms. Bradford?
There was just one more. There was a case at the DA's office where these kids had beat this teen to death. This was about a year ago. I know you know the case. I believe one or two of the kids, they were trying them as adults and then switched to trying them as minors. And they get to finish high school, they get to go on with their life and all of that. And as a mother, I just think, my gosh, this is where I was talking about these deals shouldn't be made. So when a DA's office, with a crime as horrific as that was, when you have a minor and you go back on your word and now you try him as a minor instead of as an adult, how does that even happen?
So I don't know the specifics, right? Because I don't do juvie cases in our office, so I don't know what was done. But I would say that this is why you want fair and unbiased judges, because you want to know that whatever was done, that the process was fair and that we can trust the process. Because I do not know the specifics that are involved. But, it's just that situation, that type of situation is just unfortunate all around, right? Unfortunate all around. It's unfortunate for the parents to lose one. It's unfortunate to have the parents on the other side, because as a parent, you're like, my goodness, my child made a mistake. I made terrible mistakes in my life and now they're facing. It's just horrible situation on both sides. There's no winners, I don't think. So I don't know what the process was. But again, going back to fairness, if you truly believe our judicial system is fair, then you can sleep saying, well, the judicial system was fair. Like what happened was fair. But the problem is when you don't think the judicial system is fair, that is the problem. Or when you have judges that are biased and you don't believe in the system, that is when you get the problems.
Well, I don't think the judicial system is fair. Yeah. And I could give you tons. I've been here 28 years. 29 years, I forget. And I've been involved in endorsing candidates for a very long time. And there was this one particular prosecutor who prosecuted an individual. He was with the Clark County District Attorney's Office, prosecuted an individual, had evidence that this individual was not guilty, never forwarded the evidence to the judge, never forwarded the evidence to the defense. And this gentleman spent 27 years behind bar. Now, this prosecutor became a district court judge and now sits on the Supreme Court. This is the kind of corruption that I'm talking about. And there is not enough advocates out there who could bring these things to the voters' attention so they could be educated on what's going on before they go to that voting booth. And that's why we do what we do. If you had a prosecutor that was before you, that you found out later that never gave you evidence of somebody's innocent, what would you recommend happen to that person? How would you go about?
Like as a judge? As a judge, again. So because they would have to be through the state. So as a judge, I think you absolutely need to release that information now that you know. Like, let's say you found out as a judge and no one else found out, you need to release that information on both sides. But after that, I think as a judge, that's not our position anymore. Now the state needs to go after them, right? And they need to decide under whatever protocol they have. Now they get an opportunity to be represented. But I think as a judge, once we let the knowledge known, that's not our role anymore. So.
Okay. You have anything else, Ms. Bradford? I think we nailed it.
Yeah.
Ms. Bradford, do you have anything else that we missed?
I do not. Just remember, it's crystal clear. You want just
one more thing.
Oh,
you didn't tell us about the baby.
Oh,
215. I got to hear about this.
So yes, I had my daughter on the freeway on the 515.
Ooh.
My husband delivered her in the car.
Congrats.
Yes. So
shout out to
how'd you get that
Deontay.
So let me tell you. So my first child, yes, Deontay. My first child came in 8 hours, but my water broke like the movies. It was, 8-hour labor. The second child came in 6 hours. So my third child came about 12 minutes.
Oh my God.
I had only 2 contractions. I had one contraction and woke me up. Told my husband, I was like, this is not right. Like, it was so strong. And my daughter's 3, my son's 4. So I had just had a baby, right? So I knew, like, this is not right. So I was like, we have to go. It was during COVID, so we did not visit the hospital. So I remember asking him, well, how far is it? He said, I'm going to take a shower. We'll make it. And it was like 30 minutes away. And I was like, oh, my goodness. So we run in the car. And nothing has happened, like nothing has came out of me, no water breaking or nothing. And I told my husband, like, I feel like my body's telling me to push. And he was like, well, something has to come out of you, right? Like your water has to break, so you're fine. I was like, you know what? You're right. I am fine. And then I had one contraction, and like I remember holding the car, like the little hanger thing, and I like held because my body was telling me to push, and everything came out, including her head. And so I was holding her head, and my husband's driving.
The head came out first.
It did. The head came out, and I could only feel to like up her eyes. And I remember telling my husband, like, she's stuck. And he's like, of course you're stuck. Like, you're pregnant. I'm like, no, she's coming out. She's stuck. So he understood what I was saying. He pulls over on the freeway, and my husband just very calm. So he just like walks calmly across the car and just calmly delivers her.
Wow.
And
he's not a doctor.
No, he's not.
And he has no medical training.
No medical training, delivered her, and I didn't even tear, which doctor told me, which is crazy. They asked me if my husband was a doctor because they were like, wow, it's like just like you had her in the hospital. And so it was during COVID. I know he called 911. I don't know if there was any ambulances available, but we drove to the hospital. And when I got there, I had my daughter in one arm, my placenta in the other arm, because I delivered that too in the car.
Congrats.
And she's fine. She's 3 years old. She actually has red hair. Little girl with red hair. But yeah, she's a joy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Mark is going to zoom in on you, and you tell folks why they should go to the voting booth and vote for you and your point of contact.
Okay, so you should vote for me because you want a judge that is fair, that is impartial, and most importantly, that follows the law. So it is crystal clear you want justice. I'm the only Kristal on the ballot with a K, and you can find me at kristalbradford.com, and you spell my name KRISTALBRADFORD.
Well, Ms. Bradford, thank you so much. Ms.
Thank you.
Phillips, thank you. Folks, that's Kristal Bradford. She's running for a Justice of the Peace Department number 2. And we were asking all these questions to make sure you have a good understanding of this particular candidate because she's a newcomer to the electoral process. And we want to make sure that you understand and you know exactly where her mindset is and how she thinks and how she's going to best serve you as the next Justice of the Peace. As the next Justice of the Peace for Department number 2. And also, I wanted to make sure everybody know about this book, How to Navigate Nevada's Family Court System. And it got republished because the other one was smaller and you can read the font on the back. But I wanted everybody to know about this book. So if you have any family court problems, you could go ahead and have your own pocket attorney, so to speak. But getting back to Ms. Bradford, I think that she'll do an amazing job on the bench. And I think that we need fresh blood on the bench. And the same old is not working for anybody. And I applaud anybody out there that live in the Las Vegas area and vote for Ms. Bradford and put her on the bench. Because what we have on the bench right now has been there way too long. And we're moving, we're growing, we're changing, and we also need to change your judicial bench while our community changes at the same time. So stop looking for that funny name. Stop looking for that person that has all these little badges on there because how do they get all those badges? How did they get all those badges? We're the only organization that has transparency in our endorsement process. How these other badges get on their particular campaign site is because of the friendship that they have. It's not because they're better than the other candidate. It's because of the friendship that they establish. And sometimes when you look at the judicial bench, you need to stop looking at the friendship and look at the quality of the person and know that times are changing and we need to change with those times. And our judiciary also needs to change with those times as well. This is Steve Sampson and Stephanie Phillips with Veterans in Politics. Until next time.